Sorry if you can hear the fans in my room. It's very hot and it's May, which is not a good sign for the summer. So today I'm talking about Fantastic Planet. It's a sci-fi movie from 1973. It's a French-Czechoslovakian film heavily utilizing surrealist imagery with a focus on themes of survival, adaptation, and cultural diaspora. This movie is not for kids, containing elements of violence, nudity, and a relatively oppressive sense of dread throughout the whole runtime. And yeah, spoilers ahead. I was introduced to this film in college as part of either an art history class or a history of animation course. I honestly don't remember which one made me watch it first, but I watched the dub version the other day for the first time, as opposed to the French version. I was reminded of the discussions held in class, how the various students interpreted the movie and what it could potentially be trying to say to the audience. So, got me thinking about the movie. Figured I'd make a video about it. I'm gonna break down the plot of the movie, a little bit about what surrealism is, and then what some of the takeaways from the film could be. If you're watching this, then I assume you either have an assignment for Fantastic Planet due, an interest in older movies, or are a fan of like animation, or maybe you just followed me recently and this is the first video you've seen since you followed me, which is, yeah, I'm happy to have you here. To dive into Fantastic Planet, I'm going to break down the movie's plot, talk a bit about surrealism as an art movement, and then talk about the different messages or ideas that I think could be drawn from the film. Fantastic Planet depicts a future in which humans, referred to as ohms, are considered both a pet and pest by the Drog, giant blue aliens that are the apex species on the planet where the film takes place. We also know that the movie takes place like in the future, kind of Planet of the Apes style, where this doesn't take place on Earth. We see Terra momentarily, but it's established that humans at one point or another either destroyed the Earth or the Earth was destroyed or became inhabitable. So while the ohms truly are human, this is humans in an alien scape. Pet ohms take on a role somewhere between like a dog or a doll.
Terre, aime, t'y vas. Répète.
Terre, aime, t'y vas. Répète.
While wild ohms are seen as akin to rats or rabid dogs.
Par un homme domestique, ce n'est pas une mauvaise chose, ça distrait. Mais tous ces hommes sauvages, ils pillent, ils sont sales.
Drog society relies heavily on meditation and civil councils to operate, while the ohms hold no authority whatsoever on the planet. We follow an ohm named Ter throughout the movie. Ter is different from other ohms as he was able to learn the Drog language and technology from like a learning tool that looks like a headband from his owner, a Drog named Tiwa. With help from other ohms, Ter is able to share the information he's gathered and teach other ohms how to read and understand Drog technology. Eventually they are able to escape to the Fantastic Planet, which is like a satellite or a dwarf planet orbiting the planet that the movie's located on. By doing this, the ohms are able to discover the secret of the Drog and use this in order to gain substantial presence and like a sense of authority within the Drog society. The film has a sweet ending given the dourness and seriousness of the movie overall. While we follow Ter and are introduced to other characters, there's a dreaminess and a sense of never really being sure what's going on. Things, purposes, characters, the natural world on the planet that the movie takes place in are all explained at a minimum. The movie has a sense of passive observance, creating a truly alien environment compared to what we know of our world. This feels purposeful in the film, with Fantastic Planet leaning heavily on imagery and ideas and less on detail. Additionally, we don't see very much of the world after it's been changed by the ohms, so although there is an epilogue showing like the sweet ending of the ohms having autonomy or gaining autonomy, we don't see a lot of that or what becomes of the world after that takes place. By the end, we know more about the Drog world and society, but we don't necessarily understand it. Part 2, Surrealism. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that Fantastic Planet uses surrealist imagery, so I want to take a moment to just explain what that means to the best of my ability. There are better explanations of surrealism and the surrealist movement on YouTube though, and I may link some of them with this video. The surrealist movement is often credited to the writer and poet Andre Breton, I feel like I'm saying his name weird, in 1924. The movement focused on the exploration of the conscious and unconscious mind, containing elements of dreamscapes or symbolic imagery. Surrealists additionally often used eroticism and automatism, the latter of which embraced chance, randomness, and uncertainty into the making of art. Surrealism holds similar aesthetics and elements to abstract art and existentialism, but the movement itself was at least partially shaped by Sigmund Freud's concepts of the unconscious mind, specifically with his book The Interpretation of Dreams from 1899. I would say another example of surrealism, this is such a tangent. I would say another example of surrealism being used in modern animation could be seen in like Courage the Cowardly Dog.
We interrupt this program to bring you Courage the Cowardly Dog Show, starring Courage the Cowardly Dog!
The show utilized visual elements that matched with the movement, both stylistically and in its use of symbolism, and this is entirely biased. In this, since I enjoy the interpretation of the unconscious mind, and that dreams can alter your perception of reality, or tell you something beyond your rational mind, such as when a dog knows someone is a suspicious person, regardless of their perceived presence in society. But sometimes a fox is just a fox, a duck is just a duck, I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna hold off on completely spiraling into talking about a show from my childhood, but let me know if that's something you want me to break down, I guess. I have no problem rewatching every episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog and talking about it. Anyway, Surrealists were also influenced by the Dada movement. Similarly to how Dadaism was a response to World War I, some artists would lean into Surrealism as a response to World War II. This response to the crisis of the time appears often throughout art history. A modern-day equivalent be the street artist Banksy, who uses surrealist symbols and imagery to express ideas, such as in murals or through installations like the Waldorf Hotel. Surrealism would eventually be eclipsed by existentialism, but many people even today take influence from the surrealist movement, its messages and techniques created or revolutionized by the movement. There are still surrealist artists, but they aren't part of the surrealist movement. Part 3, Interpretations of Fantastic Planet. Alright, so if you've stuck with me this far, thanks for staying here. I'm trying to make this video quick. I feel like I don't like when my videos go over 10 minutes. I'm gonna break down a few variations on how the film could be interpreted. Okay. Old versus new. We're shown that the old ways had to die in order for the new order to step up, and that it was only through this process of adaptation and survival that Ohms were able to eventually gain respect from the Drog. By adapting to gain knowledge and persevering, the Ohms are eventually able to grab power unavailable to them before. Not all old ways would lay down and die though, and sometimes this must be made to step aside in order to move forward. Elements of World War II, the oppression of people. Earlier I mentioned that artists used surrealism as a response to World War II. The elements of that could be seen in Fantastic Planet. The Ohms are wiped out using gas canisters, often in chambers or pits, all the while being chased by Drogs and domesticated Ohms. Writings are left on their metaphorical doorways, and domestic Ohms are given collars to signify their status and keep them under the thumb of the Drog owners. The Ohms also dream of escaping and finding their own place, going to Fantastic Planet as a way to get away from the absolutism of the Drogs. Humans versus animals. This film flips the narrative we're used to on Earth, humans suddenly becoming animals in the way that they're treated in society. Similarly to Planet of the Apes, which I mentioned earlier, we're shown humans placed into situations normally attributed to pets, looked down on as less intelligent species by authorities, and the population controlled systematically. This created a moral dilemma for the viewer and asked questions of how we as people should feel in regards to animal rights, production, and control. Humans versus authority. Fantastic Planet places its characters at the bottom of life's ladder. Through the movie, we watch the Ohms scrape up what they can and fight for both survival and a seat at the proverbial table. Terror taking the initiative to learn the Drog, language, and technology ultimately sets him on a path to change. The Ohms, though smaller in stature, needed to carve a path for themselves among the Drog world. This culminates in a physical attack on authority. The Ohms substantially damaged Drog society, so much so that the Drogs must heed the call for change, and ultimately led to permanent change within their world. Those are a few that I personally noticed when watching the film, as well as I remember being discussed in class. While I think there are a lot of interesting things going on with Fantastic Planet, it is definitely a film for provoking thoughts and discussion, and less about telling a compelling story. While I highly suggest checking it out, don't go in expecting a space epic or action movie. This is as much an art project from 1973 as The Fifth Element is a sci-fi movie from 1997. While the animation can be minimalist at times, there are a number of trippy visuals, interesting colors, and fascinating ideas that help this film withhold the test of time and make it a memorable watch. Have you seen Fantastic Planet? What did you think about it? I'd love to know. I'm always looking for new movies to watch, so let me know if there's something similar worth checking out. I hope this was a fast video. I don't know. Thanks, YouTube.